You know, it's pretty incredible when you stop and think about the trust we place in our medicine. I mean, every pill, every injection, it all relies on this invisible system working around the clock to keep us safe. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that very system and really dig in to how it all works.
Yeah, it's a simple question, right? But the answer? Well, it's really complex. How can a manufacturer possibly guarantee that the millionth pill they make is just as safe and effective as the very first one that came out of clinical trials? It's not magic, that's for sure. It's a super rigorous, systematic process, and it's designed to stop things from going wrong in the first place.
So where does this all begin? Well, it actually starts with international cooperation. You have agencies like the European Medicines Agency, and what they do is create these comprehensive guidelines that set a global standard. And that's absolutely critical because it ensures that no matter where a drug is made, it's held to the exact same high expectations for quality and, of course, for patient safety.
Okay, so we've got these global standards, but how do companies actually meet them? Well, they do it by proactively hunting for anything and everything that could go wrong. It's like they're systematically mapping out every single potential point of failure. And this is where we get to the heart of it all, a crucial concept called quality risk management, or QRM for short.
Yeah, I know. That sounds like a total textbook definition, right? A real mouthful. But let's just break it down. The easiest way to think about it is as a continuous cycle. It all starts with assessing potential problems, then you move on to controlling them, communicating what's going on, and finally, and this is key, constantly reviewing the situation to catch any new risks that pop up. And we're talking about the entire life cycle of a drug here, from the moment it's just an idea all the way to the day it's discontinued.
Now, this whole kind of complex-sounding system, it's actually built on two surprisingly simple but really powerful guiding principles. And if you can grasp these two ideas, you'll pretty much understand everything you need to know about QRM.
So principle number one, this is so important. The whole thing has to be based on science. We're not talking about guesswork or someone's opinion. Every single evaluation is rooted in scientific knowledge and hard data. And the ultimate goal, the absolute North Star for every single decision, is protecting the patient. It all comes back to that.
Okay, and the second principle, it's all about efficiency and focus. You know that old saying, don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut? That's basically it. The idea is that you apply your resources. We're talking time, money, people's brain power. You focus all of that where the risk is actually the greatest.
And this is a perfect example of that principle in action. Let's say you've got a minor typo on our shipping label. Is it ideal? No. Is it a huge risk? Also no. That can probably be handled with a quick, informal chat. But potential contamination of an entire batch of medicine? Whoa! Now that is a major threat to patient safety, and that's going to require a full-blown, formal, heavily documented investigation with a whole team on it. See, the response always matches the level of risk.
All right, so we've got our two guiding principles down. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the core engine of this whole process. How do you actually figure out what could go wrong in the first place?
Now, if you look at this process flow, the first thing you'll probably notice is that this isn't a straight line from A to B. It's a loop. It's continuous. You can see how assessment, control, communication, and review all feed back into each other. For now, though, we're going to zoom in on that very first box at the top, risk assessment.
So this whole risk assessment thing, it really boils down to asking three simple, fundamental questions. First, identification. You just ask, what might go wrong? Then you move to analysis. Okay, what's the likelihood that it will go wrong? And finally, evaluation. And if it does happen, what are the consequences? How bad could it be? By answering those three questions, you get a really clear picture of the risk you're dealing with.
Okay, so you've assessed the risk. You know what could happen and how bad it could be. You can't just stop there, right? You have to make a decision. What are we going to do about it? And that brings us to the next phase, risk control. And really, there are two main paths you can take here. If the risk is just too high, you have to take action to reduce it. Simple as that. For example, maybe you add a whole new filtration step to your process. The goal is always to knock that risk down to an acceptable level. Now, once you've done that, you move to something called risk acceptance. And this is important. It doesn't mean you're just ignoring the risk. It's a formal, documented decision to accept the tiny, manageable bit of risk that's left over.
And remember that loop we saw a few moments ago? This is exactly why it's a loop. QRM isn't a one-and-done checklist. You can't just do it once and forget about it. It's a living, breathing system of continuous communication and constant review. It's all about making sure that the protections you put in place today are still working tomorrow and the day after that.
Now, to do all this, scientists and engineers don't just sit around guessing. They have a whole toolkit of sophisticated methods. For example, there's one called Failure Mode Effects Analysis, or FMEA. It's basically a really structured way of brainstorming every single possible way a process could fail before it ever does. And that's just one example. There are tons of these tools, and they're what make QRM such a rigorous scientific discipline.
And you know, if there's just one thing you take away from all this, it should probably be this quote, which comes directly from the official guidelines. Everything we've talked about, the 2 principles, the whole process, all those fancy tools, it all serves this one single vital mission, protecting the patient. That's what it all comes down to. It is, and it will always be, of prime importance.
So the next time you take any kind of medicine, maybe just for a second, think about this whole unseen system of quality risk management that's working in the background. It's this constant, delicate balancing act between pushing science forward and keeping us all safe. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought, right? In a world this complex, is the goal really to eliminate every single risk entirely? Or is it to manage risk so incredibly well that we can all have confidence in the medicines that, make our lives better?